Today we're going to talk about how 5% appreciation per year on real estate can make you rich and what you should be doing about it. All right, guys, so we're going to break this down into a few different categories here. So first off, we're going to talk about the average appreciation that happens over a house over the years, okay? So this does not include, I should probably make sure we're on the same page with this. This is simply appreciation. So this does not include value add. Value add is where I finish the basement and make it worth more money. I put money into it and I add value to make it worth more. Those types of things are not included in this. This also does not include rents, what I'm getting in rents. It also does not include debt pay down. The amortization, part of that payment I'm making every single month is paying down my debt. And it also doesn't include any type of tax savings. So what we're talking about here when we're talking about appreciation is simply what the value of that same house is worth now versus next year versus the next year versus the next year. Now, jump over here. The Case-Shiller Index says the average is 4.8% since 1987. I rounded it up to 5% to make our numbers simple. So again, this is just the value of the house going up without doing any improvements, without rents, without debt pay down, without tax savings and those things. So 5% a year. Now let's look at what is the median price for homes in the United States. Third quarter of 2024, 420, 415. The median sales price was 404. So I'm just going to use 400. Okay, we're just going to use 400,000 is what we're going to say. So let's say I buy a house for 400,000. We're just going to do a 5% increase over a year. Okay. And there is this compounding effect, right? So if I bought it for 400,000, okay, I didn't get it. Whoops. I didn't get a great deal. I didn't, any of those things. We'll talk about that later. And each year it's going to go up by 5%. Just that same house. Okay. So that times that is going to be the increase. So equals that plus that. Okay, so this is year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's just keep going here. 29, and I'm just going to do an easy 30 years. Now, you could do this up to 50 years if you wanted to. So we're going to add that 5%. We're going to add this bad boy coming down, and we're going to add this. Okay, so every single year, if the value of the property goes up by 5%, there's this compounding aspect, which means 30 years from now, that $400,000 house is now worth $1.6 million. Okay, and that is what we've seen historically happen. Now, let's just build this out some more. 31, 32. Let's say you're 40 years old, and what you want to know when you are 80, what this house is going to be worth. Let's just say that. Oops, here we go. Okay, so you're 40 years old, 50, 40, whatever. I'm just using a round number. And you're saying, okay, 40 years from now when I'm 80 years old, how much is my property going to be worth? Well, that $400,000 house, 40 years from now is going to be worth $2.681 million. Okay, historically, we've seen that over time, according to Case-Shiller, 4.8. Now, maybe you're going to say, well, Ryan, 5% isn't 4.8. Okay, let's do 4.8. Oh, I got to round it. Let's see what that does. We're going to change this to 4.8. Okay, it's worth 2.48 million, a couple $100,000 less. But you're going to say, well, I'm 50 years old. I'm not 40 and I only have like 20 years to go before I need to cash out or whatever the case is. Okay, not a problem. So let's say you're 50 here and you want to cash out of it when you're 70 years old, which we'll put right here. That means that property is worth $974,000. That property value has doubled. Okay, you'll see what's really interesting here is the compounding effect, because the house was worth 400 and it went for 4.8% up the next year. So it's 419,000 goes up 4.8. There's this compounding effect. So you can see the first few years are a little slow and then it gets faster and faster. And then this is just really where it starts compounding, is the longer that you have it. This is why You don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. You just have to have the staying power of you being able to keep that property and not go under and be able to take care of it and make sure that you can stay on top of it. But if you can do that, I don't care what you pay for that piece of real estate. Let's just look back here. Let's just say you bought a crappy deal. And let's say you paid $450,000. You paid $50,000 more than retail value, okay? You paid $50,000 more than the highest price that's ever sold on the MLS. You're just a crappy investor and just paid full retail value. Okay, well, how long would it take for you to catch back up? 4 years. 4 years to value that property would be back if you made a really bad decision. And there's a little saying I like to say is the difference between a good deal and a bad deal is just a couple of years. 3 to 4 years, right, is what you're looking at. So people get so caught up on, hey, am I paying too much for this property, that they lose out on deals that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now are going to be worth double, triple, 3 times, 4 times what they're worth right now. Okay. Now, this is for something where you're holding on to that as an investment. If you're flipping the property, that's going to be different because you're going to have to margin, because you're going to have to sell and make sure that you make a margin. But this is something else to be thinking about here, is holding on to that piece of property, because 30 years from now, that property you bought for $400,000 is now worth 1.557. It's worth more than 3 times what you actually paid for the property. Now you may be saying, what about repairs? What about this? What about that? Yes, those things are going to come up, but you also have to realize rents are going to go up. You're going to pay it down. You're going to have some tax savings. Those things will all come into this. This is how 5% a year can make you rich. You buy one property for $400,000. You keep it for 30 years. It's worth $1.4 million. You sell, you make $1 million, and you are a millionaire. What did you have to do? Find one property that was at market value, just bought off the MLS, okay? So let's look at another scenario here, because as we look at return on investment, the best way to do this is we actually get a loan on the property. So let's say we buy the property for $400,000 and we get a loan on the property for $360,000. Let's just say we're putting 10% down or something like that, okay? So now the return on the investment that we're getting on this, if you want to look at an ROI, I put $40,000 into this, and we can change that number to 50, whatever you want to do. So my return on investment is the 1.57 minus my initial investment. So it's 1,157,000, but I divide that by the $40,000 that I put down because the rest of it was a loan, and voila, I got a 345% return on my money, okay? That's how equals that divided by that. I'm sorry, 2,894% return on my money. So this is where you start getting into some leverage, which we'll have some other videos on. But as I take a loan and I put a little bit of money and I leverage other money and I let appreciation take its time, we're seeing significant. Basically, my $40,000 that I originally put into this turns into 1.157. In this assumption, we're not talking about money down, not money down, cash, whatever. It's just simply the real estate. This is saying, what's my return that I get if I get a loan with that appreciation on it? Now, the other element I want to talk about here is, what if you figure out how to buy some properties below value? So I typically like to get properties about 20% below value. So if the property is worth $400,000, I'm going to want to be into it about $320,000, okay? Maybe I put a little bit of money into it, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do value add. So I'm not going to take any of that into consideration. So let's say that I buy this property for $320,000. 30 years from now, if I paid, well, let's just leave that on there just for simple stuff. So 320,000, what I got on this property is, in 30 years, that minus what I paid for it is my gain of 1.237. Let's say it's a below market value property and I'm getting it for $320,000. At 320,000, I'm at 1.237 million that I am gaining on this property because I've got the property below value. Okay. Now, the other strategy that I want to talk about here real quickly is the up to 100% financing. Now, this is a combination of a few strategies. This is getting a property below market value. Okay, so I'm buying it for 320. I'm also adding value. So I'm finishing a basement. I'm making the kitchen better. I'm making it worth more money. So I'm putting money into it to get a return. So if I put $1 in, I want to get more than $1 out. I want to get $3 out. So what can I do to that property that increases the value? So now it's not worth 400,000. Now it's worth 450,000, right? Now I'll put some money into it. But then what I can do is I can get a hard money loan to make this purchase and to do the repairs. Then I can do a rate and term refinance into a hard money loan is short term, 5 months, let's call it. Okay, say it's a 5-month loan, and it's high interest and it's high origination fees. But what I do is I use that money to make the purchase and do the repairs. And if I buy this right, I could get up to 100% financing for both. I may have to come up with some, but even if I have to come up with some, it's a lot better than these other options. Then I improve the property. Then I do what's called a rate and term refinance. The rate and term refinance is going to be 80% of value. Okay, so let's say with the improvements I've made to the property, it's $450,000 is what it's worth now. So 450,000 times 0.80 is going to be 360,000. That's how much I'm going to be able to get this rate and term refinance for, is typically 80%, maybe 75, maybe 80, maybe 70. Let's just use 80 for right now. But if that's 360, as long as my purchase, my repairs weren't more than $40,000, I'm able to refinance out doing a DSCR loan or even just a traditional rate and term refinance and not have any more money into it. So then as we talk about return on investment, if I have zero cash into the deal, my return on investment is infinite. So this is how 5% appreciation a year can make you rich. And we're talking about this with one house. Well, guess what? What if you had 5 houses and then you had $5 million because you bought 5 houses? Now, I'm not going to suggest, let's just say you sell all of them and that's 5. And then let's say you want to put it in some money market account or something. You're probably going to get a 5% return on that, which I would say you should keep it in real estate, but let's just appease you. That's $289,000 a year in income. Well, let's actually look and see what are T-bills paying? These are government treasury bonds. Coupon equivalent 5.38. So, I mean, that's going to change. That's going to change depending. But if you sold all 5 of those houses and put it in a government treasury, you're going to be getting $280,000 a year, or $230,000 a year. So let's talk about this. In that scenario, what did I have to do? I had to buy 5 houses at market value. Don't do any value add, not including rents, not including the paying down, not including the tax savings, and I would have $5.7 million if I sold all 5 of those. Now, what you're going to see is you're not going to want to sell those because the rents are going to go up and you're going to cash flow even better, but you've got $5.7 million. So it's really easy to get rich when you think long term and when you think of what happens. If every time you buy a property, you realize that property is going to be worth 3 times what you paid for it 30 years from now, it makes it a lot easier to do that. Now, you can do this where you buy a bunch of property right now, or my suggestion is you buy a couple of properties a year or 1 property a year over the next 5 years. You're going to learn as you do that. You're going to try some of these different strategies because you might buy the first one for retail value and the second one you might buy for retail value, but you're going to get a loan on that and put some money down. Next time, you'll try and get one below market value. Next time, you try and get one where you're putting a little money down and you get 5 of those. 30 years from now, it's worth $5.7 million. And I would suspect that the rents are going to be more than that $231,000. But let's just say that you wanted to sell them and just put them in a T-bill. very, very, very low risk. I think real estate's a lot less risk because I like real estate a lot better than I like the federal government. But that's just my personal opinion. I will show you more on how to do that when we talk about what happens when rents compound over time in another video.